I'm a member of Dallas Lodge 182 here in Dallas, Georgia. I've been privileged to serve past master of this lodge twice, which I always tell people that when you tell them your worshipful master, it's kind of like president of a civil organization. You're kind of the head for that year. And I've been a member about 42, soon be 43 years. And with that age of experience, a lot of times you're asked questions about the lodge, and Brother Austin's agreed to kind of record this because I can talk a lot faster than I can type. So that's the reason I wanted to do this. But our lodge was chartered in 1853, which we're a year older than the city of Dallas. So we've been here a long time, and accomplished a lot, I feel like. The building we're actually in today was built in 1925, so we'll celebrate 100 years. December the 27th was when the cornerstone was laid. We've been in several buildings prior to that, but our records burned in 1924. So to pinpoint the actual location of the earlier lodge, we can't as of now. Been told a couple of different places, but in 1924, the lodge burned. We lost our records, but we've been here ever since, and we hope we've had an influence in the community. And I took a few notes about, I want to try to do some things in chronological order about the building itself, because that's where a lot of questions I'm asked. But we used to meet on Friday night and Saturday, but in 1940, that was changed to the second and fourth Thursday, and we've been meeting the second and fourth Thursday ever since. I found this funny about our building. We've done a lot of renovations, especially in the last 10 years, and we used to have a bathroom in our actual lodge room in the northwest corner. And the best I can tell, it was voted on in 1956 to put water and a toilet in the hall. So most likely that's when that happened. Of course, it's been removed. I'll get to that in a minute. But in 1957, we have a basement downstairs, and it was just a dirt floor. Part of it was set up for a TV repair shop. It never was used much. And ever since I've been here at Dallas, we've wanted to remodel that and get it to where we have a coaching room. And but you know, some things happen fast, some things don't. So we still have that in mind. In 1957, they looked into putting a neon sign out front. I don't know if that was done or not, but there was a sign put there sometime, and we had it, it finally fell down, and we had it replaced a few years later, but I'll get to that. The lodge was originally built, it had plaster on the walls, and it was very pretty in its day, I'm sure, but the plaster began to fall off the walls. It just lost its to the wall. And so they put up plywood in 1957. And it was some of the darkest plywood by the time I came through in 82 that you could imagine. When I came in the lodge, we had 8 60-watt bulbs, one in each station, and it was very dark. And so years later, we painted that paneling white. It bled through, and we painted again, so it was a little bit better. At some point in time, I think I have that in the 50s probably, they closed the windows up on the outside, put vinyl or aluminum siding on those. And so it was relatively a dark closed-in box for a long, long time. In 1969 is actually when they closed the windows. I had that date. And so it stayed that way basically for many, many years. In 2016, we put an awning on the back over our porch, which the porch was installed probably in the mid-1980s. Brother John Cochran was a member here. He was a builder, and had came through, I believe, in 83. And our kitchen downstairs, which was 1/4 of the building, did not have a door on our kitchen side. He and his brother Doc and Dwayne Fennell cut a hole through that brick, put a door there. Sometime around that same time, they put that steel porch on the back. He knew a welder out in the New Hope area. He made that, and they installed that. In 1984, they done a tremendous renovation downstairs in our kitchen. They put the bars, the cabinets in there, put gray paneling up on the walls, and really updated it. I believe that was in 84. But if I can go back a little bit, well, in 2015, it was kind of ironic that we started 10 years for our 100th anniversary. Our downstairs floor had been painted, I believe, 3 times. It was painted, the kitchen floor was painted a gray, battleship gray, and then black, and then battleship gray again. Then red carpet was installed in about 1990, I believe it was. And in 2015, we were sitting in the kitchen, and Brother Tim Adair, which is our treasurer today, said, why don't we take this up and go back to hardwood floors? Well, we kind of laughed and told him, well, he's got 3 coats of paint, yada, yada, yada. He said, I think it could be done. Sometimes that's all it takes at Dallas is an idea. Brother Chuck Mabry, Brother David Freeman, Brother Tony Wilson was the 3 principals with others that sanded that floor. When we got through it, we had to replace some boards and some holes where water pipes had been through, but we did that. And then he refinished it. They refinished it and put a polyurethane coat on it, and that's what we have today. There's a lot of hard work went into that. In 15, also out where our foyer's at in the front, the floor was below the outside concrete. Brother Sammy Gray and Brother Chuck Mabry lowered the concrete and stopped the water problem we have there in the front. Just some things that's interesting to know. In 2017, Brother Will Rakestraw was worshipful master. And I don't know if you can see the wall behind me. That's what we'd call the east wall. We decided we needed to take that plywood paneling down because enough of the plaster was falling off. It was pushing the paneling off the wall. We took that down and exposed the brick and put those windows in, and we really, really loved that. And then so 2019, Brother Chuck Mabry was worshipful master, and we done a renovation here. We took all the plaster off the walls, put vinyl windows back in, put this shiplap back in on the west wall. It was a tremendous undertaking. A lot of brethren helped. We probably had 15 or 20 brothers show up the first day to do all of that. And but we're real proud of that. When you walk in our lodge building now, you kind of get that shock and awe if you hadn't been in it since we done all that renovation. Also, we put the pediments in the east and the west back in the next couple of years, which really, I think, dressed up our lodge. In 2019, we also decided to take out chairs that we had in the lodge. They were theater seats that Emerson Lodge had replaced seats in Emerson Lodge. And that was in about 1980. Of course, Brother Dwayne Fennell was there. They had their leftovers, just what they had left over. He bought them. They met up at his house. It took them about 6 months. And they refurbished those and painted them. And I hate to say it, but it wasn't a real pretty red color. We had red carpet at that time. And but they were installed, and they served us well from about 1982 till 2019. And we realized that people are larger today than they was back in the 40s and 50s, and those seats was making it hard for some people. So we found these church pews, I think over around Swanee. We bought all the pews we have for like $400, and we went to pick them up. Brother Martin Montahan had a box truck and a trailer, and we went over that morning, and it was raining, and there were several of us, brought them back, stored them in Benson's funeral home before we could put them in the lodge. If you walk in the lodge now and see the length of the pews, you'll wonder how we got them up here. Matt Gurley had a crane truck, and we built a carriage. And back in the east wall, we put those pews on a carriage, lifted them up with that crane, and put them through a window. Quite an undertaking, but it worked really well. Had a lot of good people working, so that's how we got the pews in here, and they serve us well today. And if you ever sat in one of those theater seats and you sat in this pew, you can really appreciate them more than any other time. In 2020, we replaced the sign I mentioned earlier on the wall outside on Main Street. We had 2 or 3 years trying to get it replaced. And Brother Tony DeRocher was a member here, and his father-in-law had a sign business I believe maybe Illinois or Indiana, somewhere up that way. Made the sign for us, brought it down, and he actually installed the sign for a very small price. He was really great to us about that, and it's serving us well today. We put the sign up. We opened the windows up where you could see inside the lodge upstairs. We changed the lighting in the lodge room, and I'll tell this quick story. It's on our webpage. We had a brother who was nicknamed Sarge, and he was in failing health. And one night we was having a meeting, and we heard a commotion on the stairwell. Brother Chuck Mabry again was Tyler. He went to check on him, and he was laying on a landing. He got him up on the couch out in the anteroom. He kind of recovered himself. Come in the lodge, and he was having trouble even with his mobility. Helped him to the side, and he asked to speak. And the master gave him permission, and he said that he had about 6 months to live. Part of his heart was already in failing, and we gathered around him and had prayer. And he made this statement. He told his wife, he said, "I don't know what they're doing uptown, but he said, I'm going to carry you home. I'm going to the lodge one more time." And she tried to get him not to because of his health. He said, "No, I'm going one more time." So he was here. Told us he had made his funeral arrangements and everything was in place, and but he wanted to come to the lodge one more time. 52 days later, we laid him to rest. And it's always impressed me. He was never very active in lodge, but he made this statement that night. He said, "I told my wife, I'm going back to lodge." He said, "They're really lighting up Dallas," because we'd replaced the windows and all, and he could see that. And it was a thrill for us to hear him say that, for us that had all that work involved in it. But those are some of the renovations. Of course, in 2023, we done a lot of renovations that year. Downstairs, we removed a restroom, was down in the kitchen. We changed our staircase, took some walls down. We replaced the floor in the foyer. We remodeled the library, which is named the F. Andrew Lane Memorial Library. We redone that. Brother Chad Benson took on the project of totally redoing and remodeling our preparation room. We put the flagpole out front. So we had a really busy year. And as time goes, that happens. You'll have really busy years doing remodeling or whatever for the lodge, and we're proud of what we've got accomplished, and it makes us have a comfortable feeling when you come to the lodge rather than kind of some kind of institutional building. I've probably left out some things about the building, but those are some of the renovations that I'm asking about a lot. Our downstairs when the building was built, it was post office. And it stayed there for several years and was good income for the lodge. At some point in time, they moved out. And I don't know when we took part of the downstairs as a dining hall, but I remember my parents were in the Eastern Star coming here in the 70s, and there was no kitchen downstairs. It was still rental property, and they had a little L-shaped corner out in our anteroom, which it's not that big. They'd put all the food on that L-shaped counter. You'd get your food. Of course, it was all potluck. People would bring it. You'd come in the lodge and eat or wherever you could find a seat. So sometime between the 70s and 80s, that's when we took a half of the downstairs, made a dining hall out of it. The other half was rental property. When the post office moved out, it was rented for a shoe repair shop. So I know it's been a shoe repair shop. It's housed the Board of Commissioners. It's housed the school board. The superintendent and his people's down there for years. It's been a barber shop. It's been a tax shop. The state rented it for the juvenile department here in Paulding County for years. Then we rented it to a CPA for a while, and then the city put the fountain across the street, which we used to be parking, and the parking got at a premium in town, and we could no longer rent it. So in about 2008, we opened that office space up to expand our dining hall. We was having big family nights, so we had to have more room. So we just cut out a double door, walked through the hallway and had overflow dining there. And then about 2016, I believe it was, we totally renovated again, took the hallway out, and made that a dining hall over there. So that was probably in 16 or 17. Brother Chuck Mabry and Brother Tony DeRocher was kind of the main superintendents and workers on that. And again, that has served us very well. In 1970, here we started a school of instruction for the whole district. Now, School of Instruction is where we learn and practice and memorize our ritualistic work. The custodian of the Grand Lodge asked us to do that. That started in 1970, and it started on Labor Day. That was initial day, was Labor Day. It ran for 6 consecutive Monday nights. And I remember when I came through the lodge in 1982, we would have 60 or 70 brethren here for that School of Instruction on Labor Day night. If you try to do that now, people say, no, I can't be here. And I understand that, but that's how important it was. The custodian is a very liked man. Then, of course, Brother Fred Mealer replaced him as custodian. And I've said this a lot of times, Fred Mealer was the only man that I've ever met that everybody loved. He just had a way about him, and the school increased. There was more and more people coming, and it stayed that way till about, well, to be honest, when Brother Fred passed away, the attendance began to decline. I think about 1996 or 97, we just discontinued that school. And of course, other schools were popping up in our district, which made it a little bit easier for people to do that. In the 50s and 60s, Dallas Lodge had a fellowcraft club. Fellowcraft club being a dramatization team that dramatizes part of our master's degree. I do not know how long that fellowcraft club was in existence. It just might have been a small club for us. But the only way we knew it was we found some scripts at one time, and then I was reading in some minutes and saw where that they dramatized the second section of the master's degree for a few years. If I can fast forward from the 50s or 60s to 2007 and 8, where's Brother Greg Brown, past master of Bartlett Lodge, son, Brother Cody, became a member here, and he had been a member of another degree team, and he thought we needed to start one here at Dallas. Well, I had been part of NIM's degree team from Smyrna, and I realized how much work and how many men it took to put a team together. But at his insistence, we decided to have a meeting on a Monday night to see how much interest we had in it. And being the pessimist, I suppose, I figured we'd have 5 or 6 show up, and that would put that to an end. We had 17 brethren show up that night. And I thought, well, it's on now. And so we began to practice. We had one brother, I thought about him last night. Sea captain is a part of the cast. And I asked him to do that part. And he said, sure. So he was at that meeting. We explained we was going to be practicing every Monday night and how involved it would be. And before we walked out the door, he said, I can't do that. So it was a little more involvement, but luckily we had 2 brothers come in and fill that right away. So in 2008, I believe it was in November, we raised our first candidate here at Dallas, Brother Justin Smith, on Thursday night. That was kind of a practice run for Saturday morning. We raised Brother Jonathan Brown at the Paulding County Convention held in Beulah Lodge. And that club grew, and we were blessed to dramatize all over this state, from Cohutta Lodge in the very northwest corner of the state to Brunswick. We was privileged to go to South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and dramatize a master's degree. And we did that up until 2022. And it was a great thing to be able to do. When I talked to Brother Dwayne Fennell about it, he was our director of work. He said, you'll put Dallas on the map if you do this degree team. And we did. We started out with very few props and costumes that were given to us. We could put it all in the back of a pickup truck and take off across the state. Over the next few years, we acquired a trailer, had it painted with our logo on it. We got a very nice set of stage lights. We got a full PA system with lavalier mics, props that you wouldn't believe. We done a lot of outdoor degrees, and we had doors made because they're part of the degree work. And we traveled, but in 2022, Grand Lodge put some restrictions on Masonic clubs that we thought would be a little bit overbearing, so we suspended it, and they stayed in place till finally we just dissolved the Fellowcraft Club. But in that time, Dallas Lodge and Dallas Fellowcraft Club, they were two separate bodies, although members were very much the same. We hosted a couple of degrees. Brother Al Walker, a member of this lodge and of Bartlett 139, has a western town up on 61. He's always been a cowboy at heart. He built this western scene. It had a main street with a saloon and a jail and everything on it. It had a chapel at the end. It was perfect for hosting an event, like an amphitheater. Degree team in Mississippi called the Mississippi Mountain Masonic men. They dress in late 1800s costumes of hunters and trappers, all authentic, and they do the master's degree. I had met some of the brethren out in Birmingham, and he called me in 17, and Mississippi the Grand Lodge of Mississippi was celebrating their 200th anniversary. Brother Wilson wanted to get his degree team in every state in the Southeast, and he called me and wanted to know what we could do. Well, I was at a low point, and so I said, I just don't know if I can or not. He said, if you can just get me to your lodge on Saturday morning, let's do a degree. That's all I ask. I said, I can't just do that. And so I eventually talked with Al Walker about hosting a degree. He said he would. It was just a blessing on our part. I'll share this. I'd been looking for a venue for a year, probably. And I went to his cowboy days where they reenact Western shootouts from movies and TV programs. And he was busy, just running around everywhere. And he walked up right in front of me and stopped. And I hadn't met him at that time. And he stood there, and I thought, well, this is one of them divine appointments. It's got to be. Introduced myself, told him what I was thinking about, and asked him would it be okay. He said, he just responded, man, are you kidding? He said, I would be thrilled to host this event. So we talked a little bit, and I said, well, let me get this out of the way. I said, how much, would it cost for us to rent? He said, it ain't gonna cost you nothing if you will allow a Masonic degree team come. And so it blew up after that, and a lot of plans were made. We raised some money. We hosted the mountain men. We provided them transportation, motel rooms, fed them here on Friday night, and had a big program. And then had the degree the following Saturday. Had about 300 brethren there in attendance, which is remarkable at this day and time. So the degree team in Dallas Lodge hosted that, and I'll fast forward to 22. Grandmaster Dunn Combs from around Savannah came to me at our district convention and said, would you do another why not degree? And I said, well, if I do that, you're making a liar out of me, because I told everybody it'd just be one. And he said, I'd really love you to do it. And I said, well, I've got to talk to the members. They're the one that do it. Come back and talk to them. They're on board. It's kind of expensive to do those degrees if you do them in our fashion, like we want to do here at Dallas. I left there that night that I announced it here at the lodge, and I had $2,500 in commitment to do it. Wound up costing us about $5,000 to host a degree team from Texas. It's called a Texas Ranger degree team from Center Point, Texas. They all dressed like Rangers. They came out. We treated them the same way, provided transportation and money, and fed them, put them up in motel rooms, and they done an excellent job. And we made a lot of good friends that way. So the degree team in Dallas Lodge, those are two big events that I guess will always be talked about. Everywhere I go, I'm asked when we're going to do another one. And the property's for sale there at Why Not, so it's probably the only two we'll ever do. But the last one we had upwards of 500 Masons there. We had the Grand Master of Texas come. He flew in Saturday morning to Atlanta, Hartsfield, and come to the degree, stayed for about 2 hours, and had to leave to be in a shrine event, and I think it was Oklahoma that night. But it was important enough for him to come, and I asked him at the degree, and this is recorded somewhere, did they have anything like that in Texas? And he hesitated, and I said, because everything's bigger and better in Georgia. And of course, that was a big laugh. He said, I don't think there's any place like this in the world. He said, when I topped that hill and saw all these brethren, he said, I was just stunned. But those were two big events, and I could go into a lot more detail on those, but maybe later. So that was the things that a couple of why not degrees we had. I want to talk about the day we raised Brother Ralph Leptron. His dad, Dwight Hastings, was Deputy Grand Master in Tennessee, and he had come and we'd made friends with Brother Dwight, and we wanted to do something special for his son's raising. We had the idea to do it the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And when I started talking about that, I was told by numerous people that you can't do that, nobody will come. That's a Saturday after Thanksgiving. Well, sometimes I like a challenge, and that's where you hide and watch. That Saturday morning, we had over 160 brethren at this lodge, fed them breakfast and lunch, and had 4 seated Grand Masters here. I've never known that to happen before or since. We had Brother Ken Dyer from Mississippi, Brother Lane Weatherby from Alabama, Brother Roy Etherton from the Grand Lodge, Tennessee, and our Grand Master, Brother Edgar Land. Great morning to do degree work, and that's just kind of one of those things in our lodge that we consider cornerstones that we built on over the years. I'd like, if I could, talk about some of the brethren that's been a major influence, especially in the lodge since I've been here. Before I was in the lodge, going back in the 20s and 30s, Brother E.B. Penn was secretary, and you read the resolutions around the lodge hanging on the walls. He was obviously a very stout Mason and helped this lodge in a lot of hard times. Dr. Seal Hart, I believe, was a druggist here in town, and you can see his hand all through the lodge in early writings. He loaned the lodge money from time to time. They had to pay him back when things were hard. Another influential Mason, obviously, in our lodge. But coming to the people that I had the privilege to work with, Brother Charlie Owen Huff, everybody called him Owen, was secretary when I came through. He was past master of the Paulding County Convention, past master of the District Convention, was director of work here in the Ritual when I came through. If you wanted to call somebody a Masons, Brother Owen was that. I'll never forget, one year we had a degree planned and it was snowing and predicted snow. The weather was terrible. And we was talking about maybe canceling the meeting. He said, we don't cancel meetings at Dallas. And I said, it's coming a snowstorm. He said, no. He said, we canceled one time in the 70s because of an ice storm. He said, the only other time I know we canceled was when Sherman made an unwelcome visit to the city of Dallas. And I thought, well, okay. And so we called off the degree we had planned that night. And me and my dad stopped and picked up Brother Rogers Gore and came to the lodge. Brother John Cochran walked. He lived right down the street on Confederate Avenue. He walked down here. And Brother Owen drove up here. And we opened maybe a little bit early because snow, you couldn't see across the street. It was snowing so hard. So we done what we needed to do to have a legal meeting right quick. We walked out the door and there was 2 brethren standing there from Rockmart coming to see the degree. So we thought it was going to be a terrible night, but they wasn't worried about it. But Brother Owen served as secretary for several years, passed away in 1990. It was a great loss for our lodge, but he was a cornerstone during those years. I'd like to talk about Brother Dwayne Fennell. He affiliated with the lodge from Nims Lodge in, I believe it was 1980. And when you read the minutes, you can see the impact that he had on Dallas Lodge. I mentioned earlier, he's one that put theater seats in the lodge. He became master. He started a family night in May of 1985. The Grand Master has to be in Rome that following Friday for the district convention. So he thought we'd have a family night on Thursday night. Prior to the convention, it would be convenient for the Grand Master. I remember him telling this a lot of times. He was at Grand Lodge, and Walter F. Thompson was Grand Master. The day he was elected, he went on stage, and he said, Grand Master, what you doing on such and such a date? He looked and he told him, he said, that's bad. And he said, why? He said, well, you're going to be in Rome the next morning, aren't you? He said, yes. He said, well, I was going to let you come by Thursday night and have a good meal and have family night with Dallas, and then you could go on to Rome. You wouldn't have to get up as early, and we was going to pay for your motel room. he said, Brother Walter Thompson looked at his calendar and said, I just had a cancellation. So that's when our family night started in May, and for 40 years we've had that family night. In those 40 years, only 3 times has the Grand Master not been with us. So we're proud of that, and it's became a hallmark in our district. People come here on Thursday night because they know the Grand Master is going to be here. So Brother Wayne was very instrumental in that. He was director of work, as I said, and nothing less than perfection is what he wanted. And a lot of times we were very close. I'll say that, not because I was a part of it, but he could demand that type of stuff. He had that kind of personality that you could tell him, no, I can't do that Friday night. Absolutely, I can't. And Friday night, you'd find yourself sitting in lodge with him somewhere. He was that type of man. Many things physically around the lodge you can go back and see his hand on. Mentored a lot of good Masons, coached a lot of good Masons, probably traveled as much as any Mason I know. But he had a great impact on this lodge and me personally. Had it not been for him, I probably wouldn't be sitting here today because of the influence he had on me. Just a great Mason. One that goes kind of under the radar a lot that came to us several years ago was Brother Phil Pierce. I call him a computer wizard. He seen right quick that we needed a website. He was put in charge of that website, and today you can look on it. It's one of the best websites that you'll see anywhere Masonically. We've had several brethren come to us that saw our website, and he directed them how to petition the lodge. We've had several members from that. He's been a tremendous asset in everything we've done as far as the why not degrees. He works behind the scenes, but his influence is almost invaluable to this lodge, and we appreciate that so very much. I would have to talk a little bit about some of the earlier times in Dallas Lodge. We had a Paulding County Masonic Convention, which started with 5 lodges, I believe, and Marchman Lodge was in New Georgia, and it had the misfortune of burning, and that whole lodge affiliated with Dallas. But the Paulding County Convention was huge. When it would come Dallas's time to host the convention, it rotated from lodge to lodge. They rented a high school gymnasium. A lot of times there'd be that many people attend, and we can set 100 or 125 people in our lodge. And so it kind of tells you how big it was that they had moved to the high school. Did that for several years. One thing on a little bit of a personal note, if you look back at old pictures of Masonic lodges, all the brethren dressed. I mean, I'm talking about coat, tie, vest. That's what you did when you came to lodge. I think it's sad that we don't necessarily do that in a lot of lodges today, but in 1989, we kind of took on the unofficial Masonic uniform of gray pants, white shirt, red tie, and a blue coat. And we've been wearing that ever since at Dallas, and it's one of those little things that people recognize us for doing. Some great secretaries through our years. I mentioned Brother E.B. Penn, Brother Owen Huff, Brother Wayne Fennell filled in for a little while after Brother Owen died. And I've got to give a lot of credit to our current secretary, Brother Dwayne Prather. I think he's in his 25th year. He gives very good detailed records. If you ever serve as master, you realize how important the secretary is. He does his job, never brings any attention to himself, but he's made our lodge what it is today with a lot of his work, and we appreciate what he does so very much. In 1990, we had a brother visiting with us. His membership was at Tallapoosa. He affiliated with Dallas in 1990. His worship brother F. Andrew Lane, an avid ritualist. If he's ever been a traveling man, he was one of those. He visited lodges everywhere. Appointed to the Grand Lodge line, served as Grand Master in 2016. And that's the reason we named the library and museum after him. Had a great impact and represented Dallas well in his travels as Grand Master.
Okay.
Well,
So that's everything you had prepared?
I forgot about David Brown. Can we add that to him?
Yeah,
Let's go back and let me talk about David. All right. One other brother I failed to mention, a mistake of my mind, not of my heart, is Brother.
Just time. So just don't even mention that you forgot to mention. Just
So you're going to erase that?
Yeah, just be like David. Just start off like David Brown was another good one.
Yep.
That kind of thing.
Yep. David Brown was another member that had a great impact on our lodge in a very short period of time. Brother David came to the lodge in 1989. Brother David was from England. He served 17 years in Her Majesty's services, retired, and I asked him one time, I said, how did you get to Dallas, Georgia? And he said, I knew I was coming to the States. I laid a map on the table, shut my eyes, and said, I'm going right there. His finger hit Dallas, Georgia. He came and had an impact in Dallas. If you was in town, you knew him. He petitioned lodge in '89, was raised, and then he told me, he said, I got to take some time off. I got to raise my boys. And he did. He was very, very involved in raising his two boys till they got through high school. And we needed a treasurer. And I knew Brother David for all those years. I went to him and I said, I understand your youngest has graduated high school. He said, yep. I said, are you good for your promise you'd come back? He said, I'll be there. I said, good, we need a treasurer. And he said, no, wait a minute. He said, they won't elect me. I hadn't been there. Most of them brothers don't even know me. I said, will you take it if you're elected? He said, yes. He was elected by unanimous ballot then in the following 5 years. At that same meeting I told him we was beginning the Fellowcraft Club, and I had a part I wanted him to play. Of course, he was overwhelmed. I said, play King Solomon, and he agreed to do that. Now, Brother David, being from England, had an accent that everybody loved, and he was probably the most polite man I've ever met in my life. I made the statement a lot of times. I said he could cuss you out and you'd thank him for it. Not that he would, but he could. I'll give you an example. He had a property management business. And I was in the office one morning talking to him. He said, I got to pause a second. I got to talk to these ladies. And they come walking in. They walked in. He said, I cannot believe you have done me this way. And I thought, wow, that don't sound like him. Make a long story short, he had to evict them because they hadn't paid the rent, and they apologized to him for being evicted. So that was the type man that he was. He was treasurer for 6 years. He played King Solomon. He helped put us on the map. Everybody loved his accent and the way he portrayed himself. He made an influence on a lot of lives here and left an impression that we'll all carry with us. It was a privilege to know him. But those are the men that in recent history, there's a lot more. I don't mean to overlook anybody, but those are some kind of standouts in our lodge the past 40 years. My dad joined the lodge in 1972, as were many members of the Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church that I attended. I watched them. I watched the camaraderie that Masonry brought to them, and it was just interesting to me. I thought, I don't know what's going on with that. I want to be a part of it. And that was half what influenced me to petition the lodge. The other half was I worked at a grocery store here in town through my high school years. And one of our cashier's husband was a Mason, Brother Hope McMicken, a member of Bartlett Lodge, a very nice man. And he would come by and stay at the store sometimes till his wife got off work. He'd just come sit there in the window we had. And I noticed this about him. When he came to the store in a coat and tie, he'd been to a Masonic funeral. If he didn't have a coat and tie on, he'd probably just come visiting. He came in one Saturday afternoon and he had his coat and tie on, so I said, I got him. I said, Brother Hoke, you been to a funeral today, hadn't you? He said, no, I hadn't. I thought, well, you always wear a coat and tie. He said, I've been to 2 funerals today. And I said, really? He said, yeah. They had one that morning in Alabama, came back over here and had one that afternoon. I said, you must have knew them men very well to do that. He said, I'd never met either one of them. I didn't know what would make a man go to 2 funerals on a Saturday, the people he didn't know, but I wanted to find out. So between that and those men that I knew, I wanted to petition the lodge, and I did in 1982, and came through, and I've been blessed to serve in several capacities in the lodge and in Masonry, but it has impacted my life in a way that I would have never imagined. I've said this a lot of times, that if you stay in the box that you're raised in, you never broaden your horizon. And that's what Masonry did for me, is it's let me meet people from all over the world and let me understand their views about things and help me to understand a lot of things about life. Friends across this country that I would have never known, and I think how much I desire to know more, how they've influenced me, and what a loss it would have been had I not ever met those people. And I laugh at those people that's anti-Masonic. Most of the time, they don't understand what they're talking about, and it's most of the time it's taken out of context. I read this several years ago, and it applies to Masonry so much. A text without a context is a pretext. If you don't take Masonry as a whole, you can really get misled about it, but it's all symbolic. If you will apply that word to it, it takes away a lot of the negativity, but it does sadden me when people will talk so bad about Masonry when they don't know. They're ignorant of the fact of what we really try to do. But this lodge has been a great influence on me, a great help to me, and all I've ever tried to do is give back what I've been given.
And talking about that, kind of like good springboarding off of that, you mentioned one of the brothers that you're referencing, and he was the director of works years and years ago. Did he have a huge influence on you when you became director of works? Like, did you take any notes from him, like how he operated, or tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, you're referring to Works Brother Dwayne Fennell. He was director of work. Willie became director of work in 1991, and he was a perfectionist. I mean, he really was about the degree work, and he was a little bit hard on me, because he loved me. He saw that I loved it and wanted it to be that way, and I wanted to emulate him in the degree work, and so he influenced me that if it's an A, it's an A. If you leave it out, you're wrong. And you ask any of the brethren that come here, I'm still that way. I've even had the honorary title of being a slave master to pushing our brethren, slave driver. I said, you don't know nothing. You should know Brother Dwayne. I said, I don't never criticize you. I said, if he felt it necessary, he'd criticize you. But he has a lot to do with where we're at today with our ritual. Many times our lodge goes and helps other lodges that might be struggling with their degree work. We consider it an honor to do that, but that's all because of him. It's just the movements, the words, the pronunciation was important to him, and it's important to us today. And I'm thankful that the brethren we have today want to carry on that tradition that Brother Dwayne left us.
Gotcha. And so, we talked about how what caused you to want to become a Mason. But talk to me about those first couple of years of you being, part of this lodge and going through the seats and making your way and finally getting there. Was it 89 when you became worship master? Tell me a little bit about that.
I came, I believe it was October that I was raised. I didn't stand my examination till January because of the holidays. We only met once a month. I was working as an EMT. My coach actually come and coached me in ambulance some nights when we was waiting. But that first year, I was just a member. I was in awe of the whole Masonic process. I never would have dreamed it was as involved as it was. I sat on the sidelines for a year, started coming to practice a little bit on Monday nights and learning the ritual, which anybody's invited to do that's a Mason, to come to our practices. And I really took an interest in it. And so the following December, there's a progression in the line of officers, and you move up, hopefully in 7 years. Well, at that time, a tradition was a Tyler would move in and take the junior steward's position. Well, our Tyler was Brother Rogers Goer. He saw my interest, and he wanted me to start as junior steward inside the lodge. And I told him I couldn't do that. I wasn't going to jump somebody. He says, I'm too old. I'll never be able to get to be master, so I want you to do it. And so he talked to some brother and told him what he wanted to do. And so that was my start. And I worked my way through the chairs. The only chair I did not sit in was junior deacon. We had a brother that had to go to Lockheed for work, and we all advanced an extra chair. Becoming master in 1989, it was an experience. It was a challenge. I was probably the youngest Mason in the room at the time. Brother Rogers asked me about where my hat was at. I told him that my budget for the master didn't include that year. I sent out Masonic birthday cards to every member, asking them to be here. I'd recognize them, so that was kind of an expense for me at that time. Next meeting night, he brought me a Robley beaver hat, which is a very nice hat. He said, here, you gonna wear that this year? And I said, well, thank you. So I wore it that year, End of my year, I got him west of the Holy Altar and made a big presentation, giving it back to him. Told him I hope I hadn't brought any shame to your hat, and so on and so forth. And he said, Brother Eddie, said, you've done a good job. And he said, I just want you to keep that hat. I wear it today when I confer a master's degree. I've kept it that long. And those are the treasures that can't be bought. So he gave me that hat, and I wore that. And so that was a big blessing for me.